Welcome to the Scaling Up Podcast, where we talk about the challenges business owners face when trying to scale up their business to new heights. Today, we're diving into the crucial topic of adding process with purpose, a key factor in scaling up your business successfully. Many leaders hesitate to implement process, fearing it will stifle innovation, make work monotonous. But in reality, well-designed processes can create efficiency, enhance employee satisfaction, and ultimately drive the company's growth. Today, I'm excited to introduce our guest, Jennifer Cresswell, a seasoned business leader with over 20 years of experience. Jennifer and I first met over a cup of coffee in Greenville about 6 months ago. She told several stories, which I think we'll hear a little bit about today, and I'm excited to have her on the show.
You're listening to Scaling Up, a podcast for business leaders.
Thanks so much, Chad. It's great to be here.
Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
So I call my path the road less traveled. I started with an engineering degree in operations research and industrial engineering, and I parlayed that into the world of finance, doing everything from Patriot Act changes all the way up to managing the Amazon.com credit card portfolio. And then I thought, I want to do something in addition to finance. So I went and did marketing and technology consulting for a small company where I had professional services clients, manufacturing clients, and of course, financial clients. They tapped me eventually to run the sales team. And I kind of looked at them like, what are you talking about? I'm not a salesperson. And they said, we don't want a salesperson. We want someone who is going to, help us figure out what we're selling, how we're selling it, the processes, how we're going to make money, how we're going to incent our salespeople. And so it was really my first foray into entrepreneurship. That led to me going to a really small company, maybe 3 or 4 key people, and helping to grow that to 15 to 17 key people. And I say key people because we were virtual before that was a thing. And we were also all contractors. So it was a really interesting business model to be the vice president and COO, figuring out how we were going to work together, deliver for our clients, and also make money, especially when people aren't, obligated to show up for work every day. So we sold that company in February of 2020. We all know what happened in March of 2020. We're not going to go relive that. But the company that bought us was wonderful. They kept everyone on and basically handed me a new P&L and said, go do. We were going after life sciences clients during that time. So life sciences got a lot of investment during the pandemic, especially in the beginning. Fast forward to a year later, it was time to integrate the two companies, which was always the plan, and it became my project. So, integrating the two full-time teams and contractors, making sure the pipeline was strong, making sure we had everything set up so that we could really continue to support sustainable growth. That's what I set up. And after we had done that, I said, I really liked what I had done. I can do this for other companies. So I started my current company, ThoughtGro. And kind of brings us to where we are today. And I like to focus on the operations and process side of things. I know you focus on the sales side of things, Chad, but I've always been a real proponent of efficiency, whether it's driving around, trying to make sure I go to the supermarkets and I'm making all right turns whenever possible. But what it does is creating efficiency gives me time and gives all of us time to do the things we really love.
Oh, that's great. Process with purpose, right? And that's really the key. If you were to give an example, and I like the right turns, of some other, kind of maybe bigger that the whole market could kind of relate to as a business owner, what would be a good example of process with purpose and made a major impact?
Absolutely. So a lot of business owners feel that process is going to stifle innovation. And you mentioned that in your intro. And they get a little scared that, oh gosh, my employees, their jobs are going to become mundane and they're not going to want to come to work. And I'm going to take you in the Wayback Machine and we're going to talk about Henry Ford. Long time ago, right? Everybody thinks Henry Ford invented the car. He did not. Spoiler alert. But he did actually was the first person to implement the conveyor belt in the assembly line. When he first did that, prior to that, his workers were putting cars together, right? So they were building cars and they did all the aspects of the car. With this new assembly line and conveyor belt, they were focused on one specific task. And what happened? It was more efficient, but the workers did think that their jobs were mundane. And they all left. And Henry Ford looked at that and he said, but this shouldn't be happening. What's going on? These people want time back. We are being more efficient. And it forced him to really think about how could he make his business better? What could he innovate? And so he thought about what those people wanted. Well, they wanted more money. Who doesn't, right? They also wanted more time with their families. This was a long time ago. So he thought, well, if I reduce the work shift, so he reduced the work shift to 8 hours, and he paid them more than they had been getting paid more. So they're getting paid more, they're working less, they get more time with their families. What do you think happened? All the workers came back. And, so, you think about that, and business owner will say, well, if I'm paying more and they're working less, and I said, whoa, let's back it up. 24 hours in a day, 8-hour shifts. Henry Ford now had 3 shifts that he was running. So he was making more cars. He was making them more efficiently. So he was making more revenue. And so the company was doing very well too. So the moral of the story from my perspective is process can actually inspire innovation that provides both the owner the benefits they want and the employees the benefits they want.
Yeah. No, and that's a great, I like that example. We've talked about that before. And I think, it takes a minute if you sit and think about it, right? At first it was a failure, right? And he had to kind of rethink, well, why is it failing? Well, they think it's going to be boring, right? But when you kind of incentivize them and you probably double or triple the output because instead of 1 shift, or I don't know if they're working 8 or 12s before assembling 1 car, now, it funds itself. It's not just that you're paying the workers more money, but you take up their satisfaction and you also get a win-win solution. And I think anytime you get to that, it's great. So I appreciate that example. When you think about other parts of other organizations, what would kind of be a common area for business owners to kind of look at if you were to kind of pick? I know they're all different, but is there a common theme that you see with this?
Sure. So a lot of, and I work with business owners on kind of the whole spectrum. So a lot of it is, I first look at their structure, like what roles do they need for their companies to be efficient? Then do they have the right people in the right seats in the right team? And once those 2 things are kind of taken care of or on their way, then you look at process to create efficiency. And a lot of times we're looking at business processes, right? So if you are a manufacturer, you likely already have your QA processes. And I know you work with a lot of manufacturers. If your product isn't consistent, and you're not going to have any customers. So we work a lot on business processes. I know you work on sales processes. We work on that too. But in order for something to be scalable, and we're on the Scaling Up podcast, so we're talking about scaling, it has to be repeatable. So when you start thinking about what do we do every day or with every client, when I work with agencies, onboarding, they're always onboarding new clients. Well, if each account manager is using a different process, then the teams that they're working with, the designers, the copywriters, the developers, they're working this way with one person, working this way with another person. It's not efficient, and it creates kind of some, headbutting, so to speak. So I think, figuring out what is repeatable and then putting in those guardrails to help people. You don't want to, I always like to say, you don't want to put corporate America process in a small business unless you want to kill it, because it'll kill it. And I've worked in corporate America and I've worked in small business. It has to have process with purpose, which brings us back to what we were talking about. So onboarding, sales processes, even, some of the, call it business development processes, right? So how do we go out and find new clients? And then how do we keep them happy and deliver our work is another process.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. It needs to be repeatable and scalable. I think a lot of the times people feel like they're putting in a process without the thought of, it works for one person. Well, can it work for 4 different people in the same group? Okay, maybe with slightly different tasks to go do based on this market segment or different things that they're focusing on, but still in the same function. And a lot of times I find with sales teams, that's kind of the case. The sales process is geared towards one segment. So we'll say the insurance business. but when they want to take it to the legal community, that's a very different sales process, similar, but different. But when you try to take the same one or fit it in the CRM the same way, right, to kind of get that scalability, now you end up with inefficiencies and you don't get there. So having that mindset that you're going to section off your business in different things, keep them within the same framework. You can do it in the same CRM. You can do it with how you run the sales team because you define it along the way. And it keeps everybody, operating to the same sheet of music, if you will. And as long as you do that, it's just so powerful.
Absolutely. And, one of the things I like to tell the business owners is iterative progress always wins. You got to start somewhere, put something in place and live with it for a little while and listen to the feedback from the people who are using the process. We like to say when things are working well, but I've found in my experience that team members always like to talk about when something isn't working. So you'll hear about it if it's not working, or if you enter into a new segment and they do things differently. Okay, great. That's good feedback to figure out what can we keep the same and what might have to change. You don't throw everything out. You kind of just make tweaks, not constantly, but on a somewhat regular basis to make sure that the process still has purpose.
Well, and you brought up one of my favorite terms. So, there's a difference between, you call it guardrails, and that's what I talk to a lot of people about. We're going to put the guardrails if we're going to go north. Okay. Maybe we're a little northeast sometimes, maybe we're a little northwest because we need to modify the course correction. But we're not going to turn around and go south, okay, because we're not going to get to that focus. So as a leader, whether it's a visionary through an EOS implementation, I think keeping that, this is the way we're going, here's the boundaries we have, and then it allows you the opportunity to modify. And there's always a big difference. And I think the one other thing I kind of find is keeping people focused, whether you're putting a new business tool for reporting in place, somebody will always find something wrong. It may account for 1%. It's like, let's not lose sight of the 99% that's right. There's always one thing wrong. Even if it's 80% right and 20% wrong, you're better off than when you had no idea. Again, that focus and vision of where you're going, and you refine it.
That's so true. And you bring up it kind of leads into, if you're putting in a new process in place, how do you get that adoption, that early adoption? People are more excited about, I remember back when I was running that one sales team and I said, okay, this is going to be, I got the salespeople are like, oh no, I have to do what? And I'm sure you see that all the time. And they're like, oh, I just want to do it my way, et cetera. But then when you start your communication, it's not just about how it's good for the company, right? So that there's always the why for the company and what the purpose is. But good communication when you're rolling out a new process is the why for the person. Not just how they can do their job better, but how is it meaningful to them? And I always liken that back to you're going to get time back. You're going to get time back to do the things that you like to do. Just like when I was talking about making all the right turns, so I don't have to wait at the light to make the left, et cetera. Well, then I get home sooner, so I can not do so much grocery shopping and other chores, et cetera. And I can I don't know, do whatever I want to do, play tennis, try a new recipe, something like that. And I think that's what communications by leaders often lack. The leaders are so excited about what they're going to accomplish that they forget that maybe not everybody is so excited about what the company is accomplishing, but they want to feel good about what they're accomplishing.
Well, I think that's great advice, to get to a business leader, right? Because, change always, whether it's Who Moved My Cheese or whichever book you want to kind of pick, right? Change, causes anxiety. I mean, some people stay in the same place, one, because they're happy, but two, maybe they don't like change. And so I think recognizing some of those challenges that are there, right? And not only talking about how it's going to help the business, maybe it'll make your role more efficient. It doesn't mean we're going to eliminate it. We're going to take your time and we're going to put it here. And again, it's back to that vision, right? And kind of, it's a win-win, and focused on that and kind of move forward. So, any other advice you would give, leaders? Because, it's change. It creates fear within an organization.
It does. And you're absolutely right, Chad. And I think one of the biggest things that leaders have to remember is most people don't like change. At the same time, change is inevitable and it's going to happen. So the more that you can make them comfortable with the change, the more likely they're going to be able to adopt it. And I talk to a lot of small business owners because they're so passionate about their businesses and they love and they want everyone to have that same passion that they do. And I kind of ask them to take a step back and say, remember, you're going to have some segment over here who are as entrepreneurial as you are. They're self-starters. They're some people say drinking the Kool-Aid. I like to say invested in the success of the company. You're also going to you're also going to have that other segment who wants to come to work, do a good job, and they want to go home. Just like I want to do my chores and I want to come home and do something else. And I think both of those people are necessary, and those personality types, personas, so to speak, are necessary in a company, because if you have a company of people who all want to be CEOs, you're going to eventually lose them all because you're not going to have a company of CEOs. So explaining to them how process helps them. For those self-starters who are like, I just want to brainstorm all day and do this, that extra time, you use this process, you get more time for brainstorming or training and development for management or whatever that might be. At the same time, those people who don't have those necessarily same goals, you're going to be able to do your job efficiently. You're going to get some more time to take a breath. You're not going to feel burned out. You're going to be able to go home at the end of the day and feel empowered, like you did a great job, and you're delivering for our clients, which is just as important as figuring out the vision for the future.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody wants to be the creator and the visionary, right? You don't have anybody to actually get the work done. And it doesn't mean they're not passionate about the business.
Right.
Because I know plenty of people who want to come in, they want to enjoy what they do, they want the business to be successful, but they want to go home and do what they want to do then. And it's very different things for them. And I like the chores because whoever really likes chores, I mean, they kind of feel good, right? I mean, I like punching things up my list. Next person, right? Kind of personality wise, but they're called chores for a reason. And I'd rather do more fun and creative things. So if you were to give a business owner one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, wow. There's so many good ones. And I think when it comes to process, I'm going to take that one piece of advice and I'm going to give you 4 bullets, because I think they kind of sum up when you're thinking about process. Make sure your process has purpose, a clearly defined purpose. Number 2, listen to people who are using the process. You don't always have to implement what they say, but you should listen to the feedback. Number 3 is clearly communicate the how, the what, and the why of your process when you're rolling it out so you can get faster adoption. And number 4 is review on a periodic basis and make sure that purpose is still being served by the process.
Yeah. And I think the how, the what, and the why, and clearly articulating that really helps the organization understand, not necessarily agree. Mm-hmm. All right. They're 2 different things, and you're going to always have people that are going to be slow to adopt and resist. And I think the other critical part for me is you got to recognize it's going to be work up front. Nothing comes out of the box and starts. No process starts. Okay. Walk, run, or walk, crawl, run, is the way it kind of goes for a reason, or I said that backwards again. Crawl, walk, run.
Yeah.
There you go, is really kind of the transition. And that's really the critical thing. And my favorite example to use is always, salespeople, not to pick on them, but, the CRMs and some of the reporting and now pricing goes through all these automated tools. And, I kind of point to expense reports, and I'm old enough to remember when they were carbon copies, and it was not as efficient as when you got the little app on your phone and you're walking out and you snap a picture of that thing, or, it automatically pulls through from your credit card, meshes to them up, and I don't have to do a thing. It wasn't set up like that day one, but it's so efficient now where once you get the time in there, it just makes things so much easier. So I have time to work on other things, either for the business or for myself. So with that, thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your valuable insights on the importance of adding process with purpose. This is a topic we could talk about all day, but I really think that made, covering those key points and really taking that creativity for the business owner, maybe getting a failure along the way, kind of like Henry Ford, coming up with an alternate solution to address those issues, and then coming up with a real success story allows you to get your business to scale and grow at rates that are just far and above what you ever thought you could achieve. So thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, Chad. I really appreciate it.